going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to our 49ers Seahawks recap here on 49ers Hive. Got Matt and Anthony here with me. That was a pretty ugly performance. I'm almost speechless. We were expecting a lot more. Anthony, what were your initial thoughts of the game?
My initial thoughts were that the offensive line was playing as bad as they were up until they looked good against the Patriots. And that's kind of what I tweeted this out about a week or so ago. But it really feels like Kyle Shanahan's offenses are really predicated on how well the offensive line plays. And obviously, quarterback has just as much to do with it as well. But when you have someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, who, barring his injury, still can't rise above the occasion, and he really can't elevate his play when everything is breaking down around him, it just makes the entire matter worse. So it was just a bad performance from the team overall, I thought. But more specifically, I think, like, if you try and figure out which unit was bad, you could say that the O-line was 1A and Garoppolo was 1B, because both units were just terrible.
I think that's fair. It was hard to tell whether it's Jimmy that was bad, the play calling was bad, the offensive line was bad, or just all of it was bad. Matt, what would you say was kind of the worst takeaway from today?
The 49ers have a quarterback problem. I'm out on Jimmy G. I'm done. It's just too many times where you have the throw, like the interception today, where it's just like, that's a rhythm throw, and it's just so far behind that, the receiver has to do contortions to try to knock the ball down. And it's just too much of that. His ball placement is terrible. And I know that when Mullins came in, people were like, lamenting the fact that Kyle Shanahan started calling screen passes and stuff. And my theory is Kyle Shanahan knows that Jimmy's ball placement is garbage, so you can't throw those screens with him because he's just going to sail the ball, and he does it all the time. It's just, I just can't. We're to the point now where he's had enough starts that it's no longer he has room to grow. He is what he is, and you don't have to be Russell Wilson. You don't need your quarterback to be Russell Wilson because there's so few of those. But you have to be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that that's a delineating line for the 49ers right now. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be another in the long line of quarterbacks that, started out with a lot of potential and then fizzled out. People like Colin Kaepernick, people like Jeff Garcia, who started out really well, and then their play fizzled as it went further along, and people kind of scouted them out a little bit more. And it's unfortunate, but at least now, with a really deep quarterback class and Jimmy's contract being pretty easy to shed at the end of the year. So, I'd look for them to definitely start scouting them in the draft. So it's unfortunate, but you can't use the injury excuse anymore. The play is just bad. The ball is bad. The placement's bad. Inconsistency. I just can't, I can't sit here and dunk on people like Cam Newton and say that they're bad and then look at Jimmy Garoppolo and think any differently. That just wouldn't be, intellectually honest of me. And if there's anything I am, it's honest, and Jimmy is not the guy.
Yeah, it was really ugly, and I know we have RW here saying that he's clearly injured. He couldn't plant that back foot, but a lot of his throws, even still, the placement was bad. The decision making has nothing to do with his foot, and some of the throws that he decided to make were just horrible throws. He missed a wide open juice at one point. It was bad all around.
Yeah, the interception he missed, Dante Pettis, who was wide open going towards the end zone. It just. It's just, yeah. I mean, and Ace Daddy brings up, just because you can, you draft a guy doesn't mean that you necessarily have to get rid of Garoppolo. You can keep him for one more year to let the guy sit, but because his cap number shrinks even further in that fifth year, it's only like a 1.6 million hit. So, the problem is you run up with, the vets that you need to re-sign, and, we'll get to people that need to get gone, because I think I'm going to have to throw Eric Armstead up on that list because he's just been disappointing. And it's just, we all knew that last year was an outlier year. I tried to say it so many times that Buckner was the better person. And, so there's a lot of guys that are not going to be here next year. And, it's going to be a very big transition. So I think everybody better buckle up, because this window closed like that. It's closed.
Yeah, it was quick, man. It's unfortunate, but I think that's where the 49ers are as a team. I think that they got lucky. A lot of things went their way last season. A lot of performances, that they got guys playing as well as they've ever played. And then now it's like, well, it's not happening. You're not getting the lucky calls. You're not getting the lucky bounces of the ball. and you're getting injured like crazy. And that's why I had to throw on the rehab tour shirt, because Jimmy, George, even Fred was hurt at one point. Tevin Coleman left the game. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's where the 49ers are right now. And we're talking draft November 1st. So it sucks. But Anthony, do you think that there's any chance they can even salvage the season and make a wild card spot? Or do you think that at this point you'd rather them just kind of get as early of a pick as possible?
You know, Matt talked about it best. With such a deep quarterback class, I think if the Niners were to finish 8-8 and not necessarily tank, but still attempt to compete, I think they are still in a possible position to address quarterback. And look, I think I agree with Matt when I say that Garoppolo is not the answer at this point. He cannot elevate his play when everything around him breaks down. Obviously, Nick Mullins can be serviceable, and I think that's what Mullins is. I think Mullins is a great serviceable back, but Noodle Arm Nick is not the future. I'm sorry. He can have one or two good spot starts, but he's not the guy who is electrifying. He's not the guy who's going to go out there and single-handedly win you a ball game. He can put up nice stats like he did against Seattle when the game is out of reach and it doesn't matter. But God forbid you put Mullins up against Philadelphia and a good defensive line, and that's it for the game. So Zach and Matt, I agree. If they do finish 8-8 or 7-9, whatever it may be, if they're picking in the 15 to 16 range, I don't think quarterback is out of the question at all. Matt said it best. Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is very expendable after this year. And look, Garoppolo is still being paid like a top 10 quarterback, and he's not even playing like a top 25 quarterback, in my opinion. So, and quarterback is arguably the most important position to improve on this team. And you can argue any other spot because everything else like cornerback, interior offensive line looks just as bad. But you need someone to lead the offense, and quarterback is the problem. There is a quarterback controversy in terms of efficient quarterback play. And if this type of game continues, not just from Garoppolo, but even from Mullins, if Mullins plays on Thursday and he looks like he did against Philly, then quarterback should be the solution next this coming draft. So yeah, it's got to be. That has to be on their picture. That has to be in their mindset that quarterback needs to be the play.
Yeah, RW is trying to get banned over here.
I was waiting for that response.
Cousins is stinky. No, and here's the problem, and I know that Semper Fi coach brought it up about the ankle. I think that they haven't been looking at quarterback because Jimmy took him to a Super Bowl last year and because he's had the injury. But when you look at the types of throws that he's making and the decisions that he's making and the ball placement, he was doing it last year too. So I don't want to put that on the injury because we know what his ball placement is. It's erratic. It's all over the place. A lot of times his playmakers have bailed him out by making good catches. And, you know, it's one of those things where just again, this was a stark reminder of even when Mullins was in the game, Mullins' ball placement is better than Jimmy Garoppolo's.
Right.
You know, it just is. His ball is prettier. You know, Jimmy's throwing wounded ducks, man. It looks terrible. And then, you know, not even to mention the fact that you look across the way and you see Russell Wilson, who's just, I mean, he almost never throws an inaccurate pass. His ball is always on target, and you don't necessarily have to be that. But when you're saying, like, when the Jimmy throw is baked into the game, and we talk about it all the time, he's going to have one or two Jimmy throws a game, you shouldn't have to bake those into the game. You know, he's every game you can, you know, put him up for an interception. Every single game, he's going to have one. He's going to have a throw that you need him to make that he doesn't make. And so at this point, the excuses are done. Yeah, we went to a Super Bowl with him last year, but I think a lot of that was from the running game and from the defense, and he's limited. And if everything, like we see this year with injuries, isn't working out the way that it's supposed to, like Anthony said, he cannot raise the level of the team and the level of play of the team unless everything is going right. And that's not the type of quarterback that you need, especially when we have good players coming up with contracts. You're better off drafting a guy with a rookie contract and trying to build around that guy immediately by being able to sign free agents and, you know, bring in other guys, extend people like Fred Warner, who's due an extension. You know, it's one of those, and I've tried to defend Jimmy as much as anybody, but I just can't anymore. It's just simply not good enough, and it's not going to get us anywhere. So, you know, if before today the regime wasn't seriously looking at some of these quarterback prospects, they definitely will be now. And I know that college is kind of on like a lottery system where you kind of draw the game you get to go to. Maybe I talk to whoever's in charge of that and say, hey, we need to get down and see a quarterback. So,
yeah, I saw John Middlecoff. I don't know if he was joking or not, but he tweeted out that the 49ers were scouting quarterbacks today or yesterday. And if so, great. They should be, because after those last couple performances by Jimmy, even when he's good, it's not great. It's like they're winning in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo, not because of Jimmy Garoppolo.
I don't want to say that. And, I see Simplify there. It's not all the run game or all the defense either. There are times when he plays absolutely brilliantly, and that's what makes it so frustrating. If he was just consistently like dog crap, then we wouldn't care, right? We'd be like, on to the next. But he tantalizes us with such good play, and it's so inconsistent that it becomes frustrating. It's an exercise in frustration. It's like, are we getting good Jimmy or bad Jimmy today? And that actually changes on a series-to-series, throw-to-throw basis, whether you're going to get the good Jimmy Garoppolo or the bad. And at this point, that inconsistency is not going to get it done. I would rather have a consistent quarterback with a lower ceiling, someone who's, again, like an Alex Smith game manager type, who you always know is going to at least, keep the ball. Like Derek Carr is a perfect example. Doesn't turn the ball over a ton, but also doesn't make a ton of splash plays. For this team in particular, in Kyle Shanahan's offense, that's almost better than having that boom or bust potential. So, it's not good enough. Plain and simple. I don't think anybody can objectively look at Jimmy Garoppolo and say that it's good enough.
No, not at all. Anthony, question here. Do the 49ers win if Mullins comes in earlier?
Man, I think I would much rather go on the safe side and say that the game would be a lot more competitive if Mullins came in earlier. And look, Matt will say the same thing that I'm going to say, but Mullins can read and progress through a field. I think I can put Mullins in the game manager category in the sense that Mullins won't make splashy plays. And yeah, he has dumb throws, but I mean, it's Nick Mullins, but his ceiling isn't.
He had a couple today.
Well, I still feel like at this point in the season, especially if Garoppolo came into this game healthy, which all reports indicated that he was, and we saw from Nick Mullins, like even against the prevent defense, so quote unquote, versus Garoppolo, who was healthy, Mullins right now just feels like the better quarterback, even if Garoppolo was healthy or even if his ankle wasn't fully healthy.
I disagree, actually.
Hold on, good. I want to hear it, but let me finish. So I just want to say that I think that Mullins just has proven he can execute the offense better, and it feels like that his throws and the type of player he is won't necessarily put the team in bad of a position as Garoppolo does compared to Garoppolo throwing. Garoppolo's highs are really high when he throws the ball, and I think we all can admit that. But when Garoppolo is really low, like Matt brings up those inconsistencies, he costs the team victories. And it happens with interceptions today. It happens with taking sacks. It happens when you just can't necessarily move within the pocket. And I feel like at least when you have someone like Nick Mullins, who, albeit does not have the arm talent Garoppolo does, it just feels like Mullins is a little more secure as a quarterback compared to Garoppolo.
Sure. I just think it gets lost in the shuffle, and people are going to look at the stat line and be like, and I was kind of like it too, but like more in a tongue-in-cheek way where you say Nick Mullins' performance today kind of buries Jimmy. But at the same time, Seattle was playing prevent. They were playing don't give up anything deep, let him cut you underneath. And so, of course, Mullins is going to look pretty good by comparison. He was able to drive him down the field. And let's not also forget that, in spite of what Jimmy Garoppolo did, the Seattle defense is historically bad. So the fact that Mullins was able to move the ball is not all that surprising. It was actually more surprising that Jimmy couldn't, and I think that that's kind of damning on Jimmy's behalf. But I would say don't pull a lot out of garbage time number. Right. I mean, we all know Kirk Cousins is the king of garbage time numbers. And so while you can say like, maybe Mullins does – the only thing I think Nick Mullins does better than Jimmy Garoppolo is ball placement, and that's it. I don't think he's a significantly better decision maker. I don't think that he necessarily reads the field better. I don't think he's necessarily better under pressure. I think that, it is what it is with Nick Mullins. And again, we saw it earlier. We had the really, really good game against the Giants, right? And then went out and laid an egg against Philly. And that bears out with the 8 starts that he had when Jimmy Garoppolo was out. He's very up and down, very inconsistent, and he's obviously not going to be the answer. I mean, we talked about after that Philly game how he sucks, and he does suck. So it's just, he sucked a little less today than he normally would because Seattle's defense is terrible. So, and they were trying to get off the field. You know what I mean? It's just like, all right, let's go home. We won this game. It's fine. So, yeah, they definitely need to take a look at quarterbacks, though. They have a problem.
I think that's what was most surprising to me is how little they were able to do against the Seahawks defense. I mean, through the first half, they managed one drive for 7 points. Or that went for 7 points. Everything else was, interception, punt, and it just 3 and outs left and right. They couldn't do anything. And we said it in the chat, the first 2 drives, they let go by them. They could have easily put up 14, 10, 6 points in those first 2 drives. They put up 0 points, and their defense came out hot, stopped the Seahawks on their first 2 drives. They let those go right by them. And then what happens? Seahawks come back, score a touchdown. At one point, it was a 7-6 game. And then after that, they just never looked back. The Seahawks just completely took over this game. And it started with Jimmy Garoppolo's interception. The momentum shifted, and the 49ers never got it back.
I want to attest that. I don't even think it was the interception. I think it was that wildcat play Shanahan called. For whatever reason he called that play, it just, I don't know. You stop Seattle you go 3 and out versus Seattle, which by all means, who came in as the number 1 offense, by the way. They go 3 and out on their first drive. It gives you all the momentum to crash them down and just beat them down instantly. And then it's 3rd and 9 or whatever at midfield, and you run a wildcat that ended miserably. That was the story last season too, is that any time at all Kyle Shanahan even attempted to get cute and get fancy with his plays, they never worked out. I don't think we ever even saw one play of not even wildcat, just some kind of stupid nature work out for Kyle Shanahan. And look, when this is a huge game that doesn't just have implications for the NFC West, but it has future implications in terms of NFC seeding when the playoffs roll around, this is one of those games that mattered the most. And Shanahan, of all people, could not afford to run that, whatever that play was. And I think, I personally think that really set the tone for just kind of the downfall of the team's overall play.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. And if he wants to run Wildcat, I mean, I'm not opposed to him running Wildcat, but the problem is when you line Jimmy Garoppolo out wide, everybody knows that he's not doing anything. So essentially now you're playing 11 on 10 and you know it's going to be a handoff. And that just kind of like kills any type of, it's not like the Browns, right? Where they'll run a Wildcat or whatever with Jarvis Landry and he'll actually throw the ball.
Right.
Every time Wildcat happens, you know that it's an RPO run. That's it. It's essentially just an option play, and that doesn't get it done. There's a reason why when Miami was doing that, it faded real quick because it's super easy to defend unless you have the right personnel out there. And yeah, that definitely was one of those plays. The other one was that crappy. Well, they rolled Jimmy out to the right side and he threw the screen back to the
Trent Taylor. The Trent Taylor.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It made absolutely no sense.
But yeah, it didn't make any sense, and it was one of those things where it was like Kittle was actually open right in front of Jimmy.
Yeah, he was wide open. Yeah, exactly.
Wide open. So, it just sucks because it's like, man, how much can you actually do?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you actually need to scheme this stuff so cutely? But I think part of that too is that Jimmy is so inconsistent that you have to almost scheme around him.
Right.
And that's where I go with like why they need a new quarterback because,
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too, is that when Garoppolo is hitting on all cylinders and he's executing with his offense, it looks really good. But you can say that about any, say, average quarterback, where if you put them in with a good offense and with a good play caller, of course it's going to look good. But again, we brought it up both earlier that if the play breaks down and there's nothing there, Garoppolo can't extend. He doesn't necessarily have that ability. And it feels like with him, it's just 1 in a million. And he just, that's kind of what kills this offense, I think, is that no one can really extend. And then you feel like that Shanahan tries to overcompensate for missing someone like Debo or having a bad offensive line, or even when Garoppolo plays, that Shanahan just gets in his own head and everything just gets all crossed and mixed up. And I think that's what happens when everything on the offense just falls apart altogether.
Yeah, I think he would like a quarterback that, in a vein, not like saying Jared Goff in particular, but like Jared Goff is super successful when you roll him out and you do throws that way. I can't remember the last time I saw Jimmy Garoppolo throw like a one-legged pass like on the run. He doesn't do it. He'll stop and set his feet and then throw. And a lot of times he gets freaking clobbered. And it's just like he's so before the knee injury, right? It was like, well, he's not super athletic, but he seems kind of athletic. Now he just seems almost Phillip Rivers style, like baby giraffe running. No athleticism whatsoever. It looks bad. And I just don't understand. They need something different. And that's why, part of me thinks they're going to try to recycle somebody like a Sam Darnold or somebody like that. And I kind of hope they don't. I'd rather have a fresh start. But, a Sam Darnold is a guy that's like at least has some mobility. And,
I think I want to go ahead.
Yeah, it's just I think I'm getting to the point where I think that, again, Kyle Shanahan needs to get off his ego trip, because I think that he feels like he doesn't need a really good quarterback to succeed. And that's
Right.
it's just like, the thing is, maybe you don't need one to succeed, but if you have the opportunity to go get one, like, why wouldn't you? Like, just
Exactly.
make your life easier. And it's almost like he wants to swim upstream for no reason. And it's like, dude, just draft the quarterback early,
Yep.
and just do it. Just get a good guy in there that matches the stuff that you like. I don't want to hear this. Oh, we didn't even take a look at Mahomes or Watson. Like, why not?
Right. Yeah.
You can't afford to do this anymore.
No, not at this point in time. And that's another thing too, is that you look at guys like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, and it's not even that their arms are big. It's just that these guys are natural athletes. When you watch Jimmy Garoppolo go out there and play, he doesn't feel like an athlete who, again, can extend and move. Like Matt said, I don't remember if I've honestly ever really seen Jimmy Garoppolo throw on the run or throw off one foot. And it's not that he's not that kind of quarterback. It's just that I don't know if he can actually physically do that. And that's one thing where Jimmy Garoppolo really limits Kyle Shanahan and limits the offense so much. But again, like Matt says, when you have a quarterback who has executed and who can be middle of the line but get the job done, I think in Kyle Shanahan's head that reinforces his own idea that he doesn't need a superstar. He doesn't need that kind of guy to just execute and do what he needs to do. And again, I think that's an entire ego trip where it's like, look, so if I'm Kyle Shanahan and I know my offensive genius, where I know I can scheme almost every other play open, scripted or not, and make it as easy for my quarterback as possible, that's going to make me think, okay, I don't need to go out and get that quarterback. I don't need to go out and get the guy. I just need to go out there and get a body who can just do what I tell him to do what everything I can scheme open. And that's pretty much all it is. And I think that's what goes into, like Matt says, Kyle Shanahan's ego trip.
Yeah, and it's, again, we're kind of seeing the fruits of that ego trip right now, where it's like, well, yeah, you can scheme anybody open, but it's looking like you can't just put a body back there.
Right.
And again, if you have a guy like, Patrick Mahomes or whatever, like, do you think that Andy Reid, like, is a genius without Patrick Mahomes? Of course he is. But Patrick Mahomes makes his life so much easier. I mean, you see it. He had like an underhanded touchdown pass to Kelsey today, which, by the way, I think, aren't you and I playing in fantasy? Because I think I'm smoking you, bro.
Yeah, I just got the notification. You're beating me 147 to 83.
Yeah.
Still leading the division, so that's okay. I'll take that much.
But yeah, but it's one of those, like, just make your life easier. We're talking about the offensive line not being good. Having a quarterback that can make plays and roll out and do that stuff kind of hides bad O-line play. You see it with a lot of these guys. And I mean, Russell Wilson is a perfect example of somebody who can extend plays despite Seattle putting zero effort into shoring up that offensive line. I mean, they've done less than nothing, but he's still able to move enough that, he can get out there and make plays. And Jimmy Garoppolo does not allow us to do that. It's when Tomlinson whiffs, or Grasu gets the wrong assignment, or even, the occasion where Trent Williams gets beat, Jimmy Garoppolo is a sitting duck. And he's going to, I mean, you see it. He flinches on the ball. He just like holds the ball and then expects to get hit. And rather than looking to step up or move side to side and, make a play. And it's to the point where it's a detriment to the team to run the team like this with Jimmy Garoppolo and even Nick Mullins to that extent, because you're not going to get any extension or off script plays or any good things happening. You just either the scheme, the design of that play works or it doesn't. There's only two outcomes, right? It's either Kyle schemes it open and they have just enough time to get it off, or they don't. And that's it. There's no off script plays. There's no improvisation. There's no playmaking. You take a huge part of great offenses, and all the great offenses have the ability to do things that aren't exactly planned, and you take that off the table.
Right. And again, it's all about extending plays. And then when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt, and I think a lot of people talked about this last season and part of this season, but it was all about Jimmy Garoppolo's release. His release. He was getting the ball off in less than 2.5 seconds. He was hitting timing throws, everything that was a rhythm throw. But Jimmy Garoppolo never necessarily stepped into throws and really put any mustard on the ball. It was all, even for last season, I felt like Jimmy Garoppolo never had that true punch to his ball. It was just kind of floaters or nice something straight lines, tight spirals, but nothing major. And when you have a quarterback who already can't extend the play, you already have someone who can't really move, the least you can expect him to do is get something on the ball. And it's like, regardless of Jimmy Garoppolo's ankle injury, he cannot push the ball down the field. He is not an effective quarterback who can make plays on all levels of the field. This happened last season. If Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't hitting a deep ball last season, the only reason he hit it was because it was schemed open. And I'll tell you right now, the only deep ball off the top of my head I can remember Garoppolo hitting that wasn't wide open was the touchdown that Debo caught on Marcus Peters against the Ravens. Other than that, you don't necessarily see Jimmy Garoppolo hit anything deep, and that's just the problem with his game as a whole.
He had that sexy deep ball to Kittle in the Super Bowl that got called back for a BS.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But other than that, it's like, what was it? Marquise Goodwin in the Cincinnati game, wide open, right? And Jimmy still underthrew that ball by like 10 yards.
Yeah,
like Marquise stopped and waited for it. He's not a good deep ball thrower. His ball comes out weird. I'd like to see, I haven't seen it, but I'd like to see how he actually grips the football because that thing comes up like a wobbling duck. He does not have a good spiral.
No, not at all.
No. And like Schmera said today on the broadcast, Jimmy's one of the best spinners in the football. And I'm like, who the hell have you been watching?
What are you talking about, dude? Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, he's one of the worst. I've never seen consistently like as bad wobbling ducks,
Yeah.
For as bad as I thought that Colin Kaepernick was at time, that dude had some RPM on his football. That dude could throw a spiral.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know, man.
And that's the trend you see in quarterbacks who are also pitchers or shortstops in college, where it's like Russell Wilson played baseball, Mahomes played baseball, and obviously Kaepernick played baseball. And I think they all have that tight spiral in common. But regardless of that entire thing, the bottom line is that I think we can safely assume that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't necessarily a good quarterback. And again, he stepped up when he's had to, like he did last year. And when the team went through that entire stretch where Kittle was out, they were missing players on defense, and really it was just Garoppolo gunslinging against Arizona, against New Orleans, against the Rams. He executed, and I think a lot of that is what goes into why Shanahan doesn't want to try and elevate and get better at the quarterback position, because he sees all that success, and you figure, well, I still have the same guy. I can get that much more out of him. And it just feels like that Shanahan, I think Shanahan is I think he's really capped Garoppolo's ceiling in the sense that Garoppolo can only execute so much and he can only do so much as a quarterback. And that's just where we're at with him, man. I honestly, this season, I don't expect Garoppolo to play any better. I should certainly expect him to play much worse if he comes back and plays again. But the bottom line here is that I don't foresee any more of a big season from Garoppolo. And you said this earlier, Matt, he went up against the worst pass defense in all of football, which was giving up 398 passing yards per game, almost 400 yards per game. And Garoppolo couldn't even hit 100 as far as I remember off the top of my head. So
no, it was like 7 of 15 for like 78 yards. It was
and the INT.
Bad.
Right. And the bottom line is that he went up against a terrible unit and he couldn't execute. Ankle injury or not, you want to see your quarterback at least step up and at least look decent. And we didn't see that at all.
Right. Yeah. And, Semper Fi says it that he doesn't think a rookie QB would be the answer. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're talking about a dead year where he's going to have to and I wouldn't even sit him behind Mullins or Beathard. I'd play him right away, get him used to the scheme so that in year 2, hopefully he takes that step forward. The 49ers have enough talent to, kind of hide some of the rookie stuff going on. But you have to find out what you have. And the thing about the rookie quarterback is you're working with a rookie QB scale as far as pay. And that allows you to fill in the team around him. And that's why you see a lot of these teams, once the quarterback gets extended, a lot of times the window kind of closes up because you're dedicating so much money to the quarterback, and it doesn't allow for a lot of your good players you have to let go because you're paying the quarterback, or you can't bring in this veteran or whatever because of the quarterback or whatever. It was kind of like when we were looking at what was it, Ziggy Ansah, or who was the other guy that we were looking at? He signed somewhere else
when we were looking for defensive ends at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Ansah, or it wasn't Jordan. It was I can't think of the name. It was another bottom tier pass rusher at this point, though.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where if you're looking at a guy and you can't even afford a guy, right? Or they had to restructure somebody to do the Jordan Willis trade because they were out of money, essentially. They had to, I think they restructured Laken Tomlinson or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't be that up against the cap because you're paying the quarterback right now. And the rookie is going to make way less than Jimmy does, at least.
Correct. Yeah.
And again, a first round guy, you got him for 5 years.
Yep.
So, at least you can compete there, but you got to do something because this Jimmy thing is not working. No. Obviously, Mullins and CJ aren't the answer. You need a guy that, and it could be a problem with Shanahan's scheme. Maybe he doesn't, there was a tweet that somebody put in the chat that it's like, I don't think that they're making the type of quarterback that Kyle Shanahan values above all in college anymore, and it's like, when push comes to shove, is Kyle going to be able to adjust his scheme to the type of players that are coming into the NFL now? And you just don't know. So.
And I think right there, the word adjustment is a perfect segue into the defense. Obviously, we felt like the defense, for the most part, gave up 37 points, but a lot of it was them being tired from poor offensive play. But one thing I kind of want to bring up is DK Metcalf, Matt. DK Metcalf just absolutely torched the secondary all afternoon. So I want to bring this up. This Robert Saleh in week 1 against Arizona, when we played DeAndre Hopkins, didn't necessarily make adjustments to slow him down. And I felt like that was the case today against DK Metcalf also. Although DK Metcalf blew up, it felt like the rest of the defense executed pretty well, I'd say. So do you feel like that even if Saleh were to make those adjustments against DK Metcalf and even with the bad offensive play, do you feel like this team still would have had at least somewhat of a chance to at least compete with Seattle?
I thought that the first couple drives, Saleh did a really good job of like blitzing and changing up a lot of what he does. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's growing. But then the same Saleh problem that we've seen over and over and over again reared its ugly head, where when the offense adjusts, he doesn't adjust in return. And the fact that, the first couple drives, DK Metcalf was, looking like we had him. And after that, he just started just feasting on our guys. I mean, it wasn't even, it looked embarrassing. It's like that. Have you seen the high school videos of Derrick Henry? Running the ball against all those little kids? That's what it looked like. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And, there's a lot of issues with this defense that I think have to be attributed to coaching. Not just because the offense is ineffective and they get tired. The main example for me is when Jimmy Ward was shit-talking DK Metcalf after DK Metcalf had already torched the defense for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they're down by 20 points. It's like, shut up, dude. That's a lack of discipline, and that reflects on Robert Saleh's coaching. They shouldn't be out there talking crap when they're down like that. That's not good. Not good. And again, it's another game where Saleh didn't adjust. They adjusted to his blitzes. He kept running them anyway. They were picking up the blitzes, and Russ was able to just carve them up. It's like we're running out of excuses for him. It's super frustrating.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, we have the talent on the defense. You can see it. They fly to the ball. Again, I thought Dre Greenlaw did another great job today. I mean, he was flying around. He doesn't miss tackles. They're very fundamentally sound as far as tackles go. But, when you can't, and it hurts that we don't have our top 2 edge rushers. Well, really top 1, because Ford hasn't really done anything here. But and that kind of sucks. But again, if you think that Russell Wilson is going to kill you as far as in the passing game because they had no running game, then you need to play against the pass. And if they're picking up your blitzes, stop blitzing for a little bit. Fake a blitz and drop a guy back in coverage. And they weren't making the necessary adjustments, and it just became so easy for the Seahawks. So Saleh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I gave him props at the beginning of the game because I thought what he was doing looked good, but then he just never adjusted after they figured it out.
Yeah, and you actually brought up something pretty good about Jimmy Ward talking a lot of trash to DK after DK was already blowing it up. A similar situation happened when the Niners were playing the Dolphins a few weeks ago, and Quallen Alexander had a TFL or something like that, and he was just talking mad smack to the Dolphins. Yeah, and they were down by 20 at that point. And you got to figure that, I don't know if – I agree with you, that's a coaching thing, but I don't know. It makes me wonder if – are these guys really taking this entire thing seriously? And the whole offseason and the whole point of the season was, oh, hot boys. Now it's, oh, Mark Schlereth on the broadcast
Sure.
saying that Shanahan is calling Harrison the safety is a goon squad. And it's like, okay, you can give them all these damn names you want, but when the time comes and crunch time comes for them to execute, they're not getting the job done. So I will say Warner and Greenlaw will, so I don't want to exclude them. But the unit as a whole, when they're going out there and just not even having fun, but just going out there and talking all the trash, it's like, well, you guys got to go out there and execute and get the job done first, and they're not doing that. And I agree with you. I think a lot of that shows in Robert Saleh and Robert Saleh's coaching ways. Saleh has proved he can adjust and coach at times. We saw it in the last 2 games against the Rams and the Patriots, but we didn't see those adjustments at all against Seattle. And in a sense, it feels like that Robert Saleh has his own version of his ego trip where it's like, okay, I'm just going to keep blitzing. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over until it eventually works. And the problem is that it didn't work at all once the Seahawks adjusted, started picking up blitz, and Russell Wilson basically called game.
Yeah. But I think that's the difference, though, right? So for whatever reason, I think that Saleh does very well against Sean McVay. And I think that's because Kyle has an insight to Sean McVay. And then the New England game was simply because Cam Newton sucks. So
don't let Scott hear that.
Just plain and simple. Cam Newton sucks. I mean, even Scott would tell you Cam Newton sucks at this point. He's not that 2015 MVP is not coming back. That guy's gone. That's it. But it's again, there is a problem with Saleh's adjustments, and we've said it time and time and time again. It reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl, right? They figured out something, and Robert Saleh had no counterattack for it. He had nothing to, and there are too many lapses in concentration that you would like to see. It's not a difficult scheme. Like the scheme itself is from everything that people have said and players have said, it's a really easy scheme to execute. And yet there's still these boneheaded mistakes. And that, again, goes to coaching. At some point, Saleh's going to have to take a look in the mirror and say, you know what, it's something that I'm doing. Same thing with Kyle in the offense when he calls some of these ridiculous plays that just don't do anything. Or, he gets into the, Jimmy threw an interception. So now what are we going to do? We're going to run it 14 times in a row. Everybody knows that you're going to run it 14 times in a row. It's just they fall into their patterns, and it leads to bad outcomes.
Right.
Yeah, it's not good, and the coaches have to make adjustments, and a lot of this is on them too. Although I think most of it's on Jimmy because he's not. I'm so upset about the quarterback situation. It's not good.
Yeah, it's really bad, and I think I kind of do want to talk about that a little more, Matt. It's like Jimmy Garoppolo just looks awful, man. He looks absolutely awful. And I'm honestly tired of hearing about the ankle injuries. It's like you have a quarterback who's making top 10 money, and you can use that as an excuse all you want, the injury, I mean. But the bottom line is that he has proven that he can't elevate his play injured with a bad offensive line, maybe with guys dropping the ball here or there, and whatever it may be. And it just feels like that Jimmy Garoppolo just becomes a shell of himself and just shuts everything out and just gives up. And obviously he's not going to show that he gives up, but when you watch him, I mean, he still does that stupid thing where he feels the pressure and he does that spin move. That's like literally his go-to when pressure comes from behind or in front of him, and he just hits that spin move and he can't gather himself, and that's either a fumble or a sack. And it's like we have Garoppolo who himself feels like he can't make any adjustments, where it's like if they're constantly sending pressure on third down like Seattle was, they were literally blitzing almost every other play on third down. Garoppolo himself wasn't adjusting, and he wasn't finding himself the time to get the ball off fast because he was too busy worried about pressure. And I think a lot of that is reflective on just how he is and who he is as a quarterback and what his play is as a whole. And I got to ask you, Matt, even with the injury going on, do you feel like God, I don't want to word this badly, but do you feel like we've already seen the best of Garoppolo?
Yep. Yeah, because if everybody remembers, so he had a lot of these throws last year, right? And a lot of these bad plays. The thing last year that was an outlier was, and we all heard it throughout the season, right? Jimmy Garoppolo's QB rating after an interception is this astronomically good number that, of course, wasn't going to hold up. And now that he's falling back to the median after interceptions and turnovers, you still have those turnovers he's making, but then you don't have the excellent play afterwards to make up for it. And so he's actually getting worse, in my opinion. I think he's tapped as far as his potential, and he is what he is at this point. We know what Kirk Cousins is, right? And it's not anything that we're super excited about. And I think we're to the point where, We're not going to be excited about Jimmy Garoppolo. And people can say the ankle injury all they want, but that doesn't, again, I've sprained my ankles a bunch of times. It doesn't make me do stupid shit. So, again, that throw to Kittle was just late and it was behind and it was just a bad throw. He sailed balls out of the flats or whatever that have nothing to do with ankle or pushing off. I could say, okay, he can't run. Okay, he can't throw a deep ball. But you're telling me that he can't hit a slant on time? Like, then what are you doing in the game? Right. If you can't do that, what are you doing in the game? So at that point, it's like he's making similar decisions than when he was healthy. So the ankle, to me, that doesn't fly as far as an excuse. And I think he's gotten a lot of excuses. Oh, well, he's only played this many starts. He's coming back from an ACL. Oh, it's this excuse. Oh, it's that excuse. And at some point, you just got to realize, well, he is what he is, regardless of the situation. This is who he is. So I just don't think that I don't think that he's the guy, and I think they need to move on in a different direction. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear,
right? And what kind of gets me too is that Seattle was coming into this game just as banged up as we are, and they don't have all the IR guys we do. But I mean, when you have no Shaq Griffin, when you have no Jamal Adams, when you have no Ugo Amadi, who's their nickel back and also their free safety, they're missing all these guys on the defense, and the door was wide open for the 49ers to go out there and just run the ball down their throats and just slam it home. And it feels like that Garoppolo throughout his time playing in this game just played scared. He played like he was going to get hit. He played like nothing was there. And when something was there, it felt like the ball just barely – like that's the thing that kind of baffles me about Garoppolo is that when Garoppolo is throwing to a guy that's wide open, it feels like he's trying to throw in a tight window. It feels like that everything is just so – exaggerated when Garoppolo is throwing that. I don't know if he's just overcompensating for something. I don't know if it's just him not believing in himself or his receivers or whatever it may be. Right. But the bottom line is that Jimmy Garoppolo, I just feel like just always plays like he's pressured. And we saw that last week too, or not last week, but the week before, where even if Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't pressured, it still felt like he was panicking and just trying to read and find something quickly. And he hit one throw in particular today where, where were they? I think it was midfield, and it was like 2nd and 10 or something. Jimmy Garoppolo literally hit his check down to Jerick McKinnon, just like that. Like he didn't even read the field. He didn't do anything. It's just instantly McKinnon, and McKinnon got tackled for 2 yards. And it's stuff like that makes me think like, where is Jimmy Garoppolo's confidence? Because he's not playing with any, in my opinion, and he hasn't shown it at all.
Yeah, and then you'll see the throw, like he hit Kendrick Bourne on like a 3rd and 8 at the sticks, perfectly on target. And you're just like, why can't you do that all the time?
Right.
Why can't you do that all the time? Or that out route to Kittle or Juszczyk or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that's the place where you have to throw that ball. And it's just like, why can't you do that all the time? And then you throw the slant to Kittle that's so far behind him that it's like an easy pick. It's just so bafflingly inconsistent that it's just like, I don't know if it's a lot of it's mechanics. I hate his mechanics. I think his feet are terrible. But, it's just you can't have it. You can't have it. Regardless of what anybody thinks of Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think anybody can look at it at the quarterback play, hurt or not, and say, yep, that's good enough. Because it's not. So, as they say in my favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying. And the 49ers are dying right now with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. They need to make a change.
Yeah, man, you said it earlier. It already feels like that window is shut. Even if the team can somehow miraculously finish in the last wild card spot or second to last, it doesn't feel like the team has any oomph or any firepower to really just go out there and win it. And we're going to hear about it all week from the players on social media about how we're ready to come back strong. We're ready to play hard. We're ready to do this and do that. And it's just – you don't get that vibe from this team like you do last year, where it doesn't feel like there's any cohesiveness. It doesn't feel like everyone is just tight. It feels like a lot of people are miscommunicating. It feels like a lot of people throughout the team are just not there altogether. It doesn't really feel like a team, Matt. And I think that's just a lot of that is just predicated on the start of the season when they lost Nick Bosa, and it felt like everything from there just like instantly lost hope. And that was like, it just felt like from the team, it's just even after some victories, it just felt like the whole season was a wash.
Yeah, I think so.
I want to talk about something
Yeah.
I want to talk about something a little positive though, because it has been the negative
Okay.
show, man. I loved Brandon Ayuk today. I really thought Brandon Ayuk solidified himself as the guy. I know Debo Samuel wasn't there, and I know Ayuk was catching from both Mullins and Garoppolo, but it felt like just throughout the game, Ayuk was getting separation. It felt like he was just contesting every ball that was thrown towards him, and I feel like that the Niners might have finally found their successful first round wide receiver, and it feels like they finally found a guy who can really be a very good complement.
Yeah, he's looking like, so Kyle was saying like he thought Ayuk was the best receiver in the draft. And I mean, it's kind of hard to argue. He's been very productive so far. I think today was one of his better games that he's had. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. Actually, I should pull those up real quick.
For the game today,
Yeah.
8 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown on 11 targets. His long today was 33.
Yeah, okay. So he had another good game because he had a huge game against New England last week.
Correct.
And so I mean, he looks good. He looks good. 11.4 yards per reception. Kendrick Bourne got involved today, which was nice. But yeah, I think Ayuk, as far as like the first round guy, is looking like super solid. And that's like, and you hope that he gets better when he goes along. So he's 28 catches, 371 yards, and 2 touchdowns so far. I think that he can get even better than that. Of course, he missed the first game, and then he was kind of like working himself back into the lineup. I think that the second half of the season, just like we saw with Debo last year, it's going to be an explosion. And then if Debo can get back and stay healthy, that'll allow him to really kind of come into his own as he's facing less pressure from the defense. Because right now, I mean, why wouldn't you key on Brandon Ayuk if you think he's the best 49ers receiver outside of George Kittle? So
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like Ayuk is definitely trending in the right direction. I mean, he's just running really crisp routes. He's contesting every ball that's thrown his way. Other than that deep ball against New England, that was pretty bad. But yeah, Ayuk looks like he's coming along very nicely. And I gotta ask you, Matt, when you have a play caller like Shanahan and you have offensive weapons like Debo, like Kittle, and like Brandon Ayuk, and even some of the running backs who, although he had a bad day, Hasty still has really good tangibles. Does that give you, at least to some extent, a little hope that whatever quarterback is under center, at least those offensive playmakers can still give the team a chance to win? Or do you feel like with Mullins and Garoppolo at this point, that's pretty much it?
No, because like the quarterback play right now is going to cut the 49ers nose off to spite its face. You can have good weapons, but if the quarterback's not making good decisions, if the quarterback's not getting the ball out on time, who cares about the weapons? You need the quarterback to get them the ball. And speaking of JaMychal Hasty, he played very bad today.
He had a touchdown.
I know, but it made me sad.
Yeah, it was
I
really
love
bad.
JaMychal Hasty. He wasn't good, but yeah, if you don't have the quarterback to get people the ball, it doesn't matter how good your playmakers are. And we see that time and time again where these, it's just like, I'm frustrated because we've seen this before in the NFL countless times where you have all the weapons, but the quarterback sucks, and then your position players get frustrated because quarterback can't get them the ball. And I think we're getting to the point where it's just like, people are going to start getting pissed off. If I'm George Kittle, why am I not pissed? Why wouldn't I get pissed off that the quarterback's playing like crap when I go out there and do everything that I can and bust my ass and give 100% to the team, and it's because the guy can't get you the ball?
Right. It feels like Dallas, right? I mean, Dallas has CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. They have all these guys. They have Zeke, and I know they have a bad offensive line, but the bottom line here is that they have really good weapons, and they're on their third string quarterback. And a lot of people are saying that, even with Andy Dalton, there's still a chance Dallas can compete. And Dalton looked terrible. And that's no matter with his weapons, is that you have a quarterback who's not executing. And I think we can safely compare the two in the sense that if you have two quarterbacks that aren't executing, it's just a wash altogether. And I think a good representation of that is like we saw with Dak Prescott. It's like before he got hurt, he was the only reason Dallas was relevant. And I think you can put that to Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense that if Jimmy Garoppolo is playing well, the team has a chance. But God forbid Garoppolo throws interceptions or just makes some dumb throws and puts the team in bad position, you can just pretty much rule them out to win at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, it's going to be an indicative moment on Jimmy Garoppolo if he's not able to, heal up and at least play a little bit better. These people are again, it's gonna be an ugly situation where everybody's frustrated because it's like we're all here doing what we're supposed to be doing, and and not everybody. I think the line play has been pretty suspect, and like I'm not gonna dunk on Hasty too hard because he's an undrafted rookie. He's still learning the system, and I don't think that he played poorly all on his own. I think that the line didn't do him a ton of favors. So
right.
That being said, it was nice for him to get his first touchdown. Kerry Hyder, I heard his name again. I love that.
Yeah. Good trade chip.
No, keep him and get rid of Armstead. Get that contract out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, so Armstead's on pace to only have 3 sacks this year. So we're paying that much money for essentially a glorified run stuffer.
It's bad.
Really bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. And that would be able to, allow us to open up and get somebody else. I would try to move Armstead now so that dead money is off the books next year, and then you can re-sign people or whatever. It's a different situation because he does have a lot of dead money. You got to hope somebody would be willing to take him, and that's really a problem. And again, as I've said multiple times, this isn't really Major League Baseball, and trades aren't super easy to come by.
Right.
But you would hope that the 49ers can do something, or like maybe convert it to a signing bonus so it's not a cap hit. Have Parag Marate do his like usual wizardry, because this team is up against it with free agents, and people, again, I'm loyal to the team. If anybody's not producing, you got to go. That's why we have a problem with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's why we have a problem with how the offensive line's playing. That's why we have a problem with any number of things, right? Quan Alexander, everybody wants him gone. Everybody wants D Ford gone because they're not doing it. They're not doing it for the 49ers. So they got to go. Yeah. But Hyder is a guy that has definitely been doing it, and I'd like to see him stick around, and they should re-sign him if they could.
It definitely would be a nice thing to see if Hyder can stick around for another year. It seems like that Hyder is really playing that Ronald Blair type role where it's like they can move this guy all over the line, but he's still going to go out and get the job done. And you kind of brought it up, though, talking about Garoppolo and just executing, and especially with anyone who has a big contract, Matt. They are coming into next week on short rest, going up against Green Bay, who just lost a really ugly game to Minnesota. And right now, based off what you saw, so this is kind of a two-parter I'd like you to speculate on. So the first part, where do you think Garoppolo is with the ankle injury based on what we saw when him limping off? And then 2, who do you feel is going to start against Green Bay?
I have a weird suspicion that Jimmy will be good enough to start against Green Bay. I think this was just a situation of like, because we saw him warming up on the sideline, right? And then they were just like, all right, no, we're going to put Mullins in. And I think it was similar to the Dolphins game where like he wasn't playing well, and they're like, all right, we're just going to pull you. I think on a short week. And I think it's the same thing with Kittle and the foot injury. Maybe he could have gone, but they wanted to make sure everything was cool and then pulled him back. Hopefully they can go. If not, I think, again, the key to success against Green Bay is the same as it always is. Just shove the ball down their throat and keep the ball away from them, which I think the 49ers can do even with a suspect offensive line. Green Bay has shown no inclination to do well against people who play physical football. So until they prove that they can do that, I'm not super worried about them. But I think, either way, I think Jimmy will be a decision. Nick Mullins will probably be the backup. And, I'll come out specifically tomorrow and say he's going to be done. I don't think they have him to really roll through a week and, mess that too much as far as like, oh, we have to wait and see how real quick he's going to be able to go. I kind of think he will go, but, who's to say? Maybe Kyle Shanahan's pissed. You can
I definitely feel like he needs to put Jimmy Garoppolo in the doghouse at this point, man. Just no one is really stepping up at this point.
Speaking of doghouse, I think we have seen the very last of Dante Pettis.
Oh, come on, man. He got popped on that kick return.
Got popped. Isn't that a microcosm of his 49ers career?
No, you're right.
You were inactive for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is. You get in a game for a play, and then all of a sudden you get hurt and fumble the ball away. It's just it was so Dante Pettis.
It was definitely Dante Pettis in a nutshell.
Yeah. What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that roughing the passer call?
The one where Wilson faked the slide?
Where he faked the slide and Ward hit him.
I think it's a good debate because here you have in today's NFL where hitting a quarterback who's going down at any time is automatically a 15-yard penalty. But in this case, when you have someone like Russell Wilson, who has throughout the time, these rules have really gotten more strict, just like Patrick Mahomes, just like Wilson, even Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers have done it themselves. They will fake the slider. They will do the little where they're running and they kind of do the little fake lean and try to get a few more yards. And then once they slide, they draw that contact and it's an instant foul.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, I'll tell you, I understand why they're trying to enforce these kind of rules, but the thing is that if that's a running back who's making that play, and keep in mind when a runner is running the ball, they are considered a running back. They are considered a ball carrier. And if you had a running back who took that exact same hit where the player couldn't prepare for them to slide, I don't think that flag gets thrown. But because it's a quarterback, that flag is going to get thrown every time. And I don't think it's one of those things where the NFL can just say, okay, you know what, we're going to do away with it. If they slide and get hit, that's not a foul. I don't think they can do that at this point and just stray away from that. But I think the big problem is the referee is not really understanding how to properly enforce that foul. Because again, you got to factor in everything going on. Eric Crocker tweeted out where he said, if he's targeting the quarterback's hip, that's his target space, but you can't play it where the guy is sliding and you're already launching to target at the hip because you're going to hit his head. Defenders can't play that, and there's nothing defenders can do about that. And I think referees don't seem to see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a running back wouldn't slide like that. A running back's going to hit somebody. That's part of it. But I think, if you want to change the rule to make it safer and so that, you don't have these type of situations, that last minute slide, it's like, especially with the fake, right? As soon as Russell Wilson did that like little fake thing, the play should have been blown dead.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to fake a slide and take advantage of the rules like that when you know that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's one of those, because again, of course the defender's going to try to get low. Against the ball carrier, low man wins. You're supposed to get low, and so they're trying to make a play. But again, what if he pulls up, right? What if he pulls up and Russ is like, oh, he pulled up, I can get by him real quick and get an extra 10 yards.
Which happens all the time, especially with Mahomes. That's something they do all the time. All
the time. And so, I thought it was a little bit of a BS call. I get we all get what they're trying to do with player safety and stuff like that. But the fact that Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson knew it too. He knew that the defender was going to hit him and knew he was going to draw the penalty. And I think that's the type of gamesmanship that the NFL doesn't really need. It's just one of those things where I don't think the NFL really needs it, and it shouldn't be a part of it. And I think they need to take a look at that because there are real issues with player safety that we want to look at. This was not the same hit that knocked out Andy Dalton last week that John Boston put with. This was not that hit. This was Russell Wilson, who was known as a runner, who was known as a dynamic runner with the football, starting to fake a slide in either an attempt to draw contact or fake a defender to get extra yards. And at that point, I think it's fair game. If you fake the slide, you deserve to get lit up. Get down when you need to get down, But if they don't want to do that, what they can do is as soon as he goes to even start to give himself up, as soon as those knees bend and looks like he's going to go down, you blow the whistle right away. That's it. And you could avoid those things.
And I think that's definitely something they can work into too. And it's a professional multi-billion-dollar ran organization, the NFL is. And you're telling me you can't, that's not proper training. It's just you can't find ways to enforce these rules. And again, at the end of the day, it's all about player safety, man. But you have, I don't want to kind of sound like mean on this part, but you have to separate safety from football, man. And you have to understand that this is a game of football. Guys are getting constantly hit and constantly concussed all the time. It's a part of the game. And when you have guys who are naturally born to just tackle, and you're starting to see that in college now where guys are really adjusting to new safety rules where tackling is just changing entirely. You have a lot of guys like say Bobby Wagner, for example, or even whoever hit him, Aziz Al-Shire. You have a lot of these guys who are raised on lowering their helmets and just initiating contact, and they were born and raised through that their entire time. And you're not just going to change those habits in the course of a season or two. It's just natural for them at this point. And that's where I feel like the NFL doesn't seem to understand that. You got to understand for them that football, they have been playing this their whole lives. This is exactly how they've played. You can't just try and make dramatic changes that are going to protect player safety while making the defenders have to cough up paychecks at the end of the day, because I'm sure Shire is going to have to pay $15,000 or $20,000 for that hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's part of it. There's a lot that needs to be done. I think we're gonna start to look forward to the Green Bay game right now. Real quick, I do want to answer. I know Ace Daddy's asked this a couple times. Why the Niners released DJ Reed? He tore his pec and he was supposed to be out for the season, so that's why they didn't have his spot. So I mean, listen, Seattle loves the 49ers sloppy seconds. They love it. So
like 10 of them
going forward, I know. Going forward, what can we reasonably expect on such a short turnaround after a disappointing loss against Green Bay? What do you expect to happen?
Boy, it's hard to really expect after a performance like this. I guess if I want to have a half glass full type of view, I expect either Brandon Ayuk or if Deebo Samuel comes back, I expect someone on offense to step up. I think Kyle Shanahan is too good of a coach to let 2 games in a row slip away and have us get killed this badly. And I know we lost to Miami and Philly, but the situation's a lot different right now. And I think Shanahan needs to step up and play in panic mode, man, because time is clicking and time is running out. And I don't want to say that window is slammed shut entirely, man, but if it's 99% shut, and that's just how it feels with this team. So I think, and I want to see this team play with a sense of urgency. I don't want to see players celebrating. Honestly, I don't want to see him celebrating after a sack on say like the 3rd play of the game. It's like, dude, this game is just getting started. You still have 4 full quarters of football to play. I just want to see these guys play with their heads on their shoulders and just stay locked in and be focused. If they can do that, I still definitely think Green Bay is a winnable game. It's just a matter of how bad do these guys want it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a winnable game. And like I said, Green Bay has not shown itself to be a team that can play with physical football teams. And so if the 49ers can come out pissed off and thumping, that they have as much chance to take Green Bay out in the first half as anyone. I mean, the Green Bay Packers lost to the Vikings today, of all teams. So, it's an any given Sunday mentality. They have to take care of business at home. Who knows what the deal is with Tevin Coleman. Shanahan said he doesn't know if he's going to be able to go on Thursday. So that means we're probably going to get more Cargo Play McKinnon, unfortunately. And hopefully JaMychal Hasty can come back and have a decent game. Hopefully whoever is playing quarterback runs a mistake-free game. But you're absolutely correct when you say that Shanahan needs to coach like it's critical time, because it's not cutting time right now. Yep. The 49ers are 4-4. I think Green Bay is a winnable game. They need to win some games. I think they can get into the playoffs at 8-8 or 9-7, just based on the extra playoff spot and how woefully bad the NFC is this year. I mean, it's pretty bad. Even with the loss today, I think the 49ers are in like the 8th position as far as like seeding goes for the NFC, which is like, that's as bad as they've played. To say that they're just like right there in the running for a playoff spot is incredible to me. That's because the NFC least is the worst division in football, and I don't know how they keep getting primetime games, but
Right.
Did you know the winner of the Cowboys and Eagles tonight is actually in first place in that division?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Those teams stink.
It's really bad.
And we lost, by the way, to the Philadelphia Eagles, which is so embarrassing. But
we still have to play Dallas also.
Yeah. But either way, this is a critical juncture for the 49ers. And I think it really is going to determine where we go. Again, I don't want to say the window's shut either, but we're looking at a retooling, if not a full-blown rebuild, just because of how much we got going on. So if they can't get it done against the Packers, I think it's really panic mode time. And I think that'll almost, again, we said it a couple weeks ago, it's almost looking like each week is that, do we pull the plug on the season or can they do some stuff? It's there, but they need to win their winnable games, and this is a winnable game. So I think that's going to do it for us, guys. We have a short week, so videos, I think we're going to do the overreaction show and maybe one more before we, do the game preview. And for Thursday night, obviously, it's going to be late, but we're still going to do probably a short recap after the game. So make sure that you join us. Thank you guys for coming in. We always love it when you're here. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us on Twitter. We're always looking for that fan interaction. So, Perry, any last words?
Yeah, guys, Zach and I will likely be dropping a new podcast this week for the Red and Gold Standard. Follow us on Twitter, RGS Pod. If you guys have any questions regarding this game, regarding the Packers' upcoming game, injuries, whatever it may be, drop them to me, drop them to Zach, drop them to Matt. We love your guys' interaction. We will interact with everyone, no matter how good or stupid your takes are. We love them all, guys. So drop a tweet, drop a message, drop a follow. We're here for you, and you guys are here for us too.
Yep. And as always, guys, we love having you here. Click the bell for notifications so that you never miss out on a video. Until next time, go Niners.
Go Niners.